Learn how to make a headband with buttons to attach your mask and give your ears a break. Welcome to 5/8 Seams Brooke's House Edition. So I am here at home and I've just been sewing a lot. My sewing room is a disaster, so I'm going to be kind of limited to showing you what we're doing here. But we are making these headbands. They're out of a knit. This is just some scraps from an art gallery all cotton knit that I had. It has a little bit of spandex in it. It has pretty good stretch, and you can really use any knit that you have and any buttons you have laying around. I'm not even matching my buttons. I'm just using buttons. I usually take all the buttons off of clothes that I buy. I have tons and tons of random buttons, and that's what I would use if I were you. I don't think the size matters as much as that they're there to give these ears a little bit of a break for all of our nurses and doctors. So these are very simple, and these are the instructions. First, you're going to start with a 20 by 6 piece of knit fabric. Again, I'm just using scraps, but really you can use anything. If it's super stretchy, you might want to go down to 18. If it's not very stretchy, you might want to go to 21 or 22. You're then going to fold it long ways so that you have a 3" by 22" piece. Make sure your right sides are touching, and you are going to sew a 3/8" seam allowance down the long side. When you're done sewing this, you will flip it so that the right side is out. With the right side out, make sure your seam is on top in the center. This isn't a huge deal, but it does make it look nicer. Fold it right sides together so that you have your raw edges together, and then we're going to fold our raw edges. You're just going to sew all those raw edges together. You can serge this or you can sew it. If you choose to use a regular sewing machine, all of these seams do not need to be finished. They will not unravel. I just prefer a fast serger. Once it's done before the buttons, it's going to look like this. This just gives it a nice tight edge in the back to go behind your head so it's not so thick, and it hides your seam completely, which I really like. My daughters actually wear these headbands all the time. So now that your headband's done, we're going to find the center of our headband, like the front center. So that's going to be right across from the seam that you just created, and you're just going to hold it, and we're going to measure 4 inches from each side. Now we're going to measure 4 inches from the center and mark that with a pin, and that's going to be our button placement. You can really measure 3.5 to 4 inches. It's really up to you. Do the same on the other side. I like to mark it with a pin. You can mark it with a marking tool, really anything you like. Now you're just going to sew your buttons on. If it were me, I would make sure I can sew it on as much as possible. I prefer to use the sewing machine for this, but you can hand sew them on. If you are going to hand sew them on, I would suggest putting a toothpick in between it so it really has room for elastic to get back under there, and the elastic can actually stay underneath the button. But you're going to sew that button on and your other button on, and here's my other button. You are all set. That's it. So come check us out at 5/8seams.com.